Hello and welcome to another Genshin version review. If you haven't watched another one of these videos on the channel, we basically go through what has happened in the newest update. We'll talk about the Archon quest, the new area that appeared, and its quest, and the exploration aspect of it, and finally the main event, and perhaps any notes about minor events that happened before the main event. So, shall we just get started? There's not much to intro here. Well, the Archon quest is over, at least the main part of it. We most likely are going to get some sort of interlude quest, or most likely also a Dainsleif quest. So we aren't fully done, and we also need either another Forina story quest or a Nuvillet Part 2 story quest for the second weekly boss, which usually also has some lore in it. But for the fifth and last act of the main Fontaine Archon quest, I would say that I enjoyed it. It was a big finale to the story, and honestly, I think I predicted that it would be as such. If you go back to the 4.1 review, I mentioned that the conclusion most likely will be pretty well received as things were building up. I don't have much to comment on for the last act. Any plot point was for the most part just straight up done. No extra NPC bullshit or filler dialogue or stuff. Things just moved well, and I was mostly happy with what happened in the act. The only thing I just can't really like in all of the Fontaine arc, and honestly the whole game, is just Paimon and the Traveler. Like in this act, I just felt like they did absolutely nothing in the whole Archon quest as well, and it just doesn't help with their characters at all, right? The problem is that we are done with 5 out of 7 nations, and there is just no development to their characters, and you can feel the worthlessness of their inclusion in quests now. And people really saw this in Forina's story quest, where people just absolutely hated their writing, and I agree as well. Which, yeah, in terms of the, honestly, apart from the talking about Forina's story quest, apart from the last cutscene, the whole quest was garbage in terms of developing Forina after the events of the Archon quest for me. Honestly, I would have gladly taken a story quest without the Traveler or Paimon, most likely with somebody like Nuvillet, and it's just a Forina therapy session. Because I feel like Forina really wants to say a lot of things about what she has been through, and I want to see a character that isn't a plank of wood in terms of emotions supporting Forina. That's the thing about the Forina story quest, honestly. I just felt like, no, fuck that. Give me a therapy session. No joke, no gameplay, no nothing. Just a therapy session as a cutscene. Anyway, so in general, for all of the acts of the Archon quest, though, I firmly believe that people are tunnel visioning on the last act, and are calling this the quest the best one. In my opinion, the Fontaine Archon quest ranks exactly the same as the Sumeru Archon quest. I feel like that while the Fontaine Archon quest had higher highs than the Sumeru one, it also had lower lows than it. The Sumeru Archon quest was pretty balanced. When things happened, they were cool, and when things went a bit slower, it wasn't that bad. But with Fontaine, Acts 1 and 5 were really good, but the others, they ranged from useless to the story to just boring to play. It's just a slog to go through. Act 2 is 99% useless to the plot, and the Primordial Sea water reveal could have been done much better, and then the entire Act's point is to just throw Child in jail. The whole thing about Navia could have just been done in her story quest, honestly. So, yeah, the thing about throwing Child in jail can be done much better than what we got. After that, Act 3 is completely boring. The concept and idea is there, and it's a good idea. They want you to immerse yourself in life in Meropide, but the act goes on and on and on, and you're just repeating the same back and forward, and this also bleeds into Act 4, where the first half of it is just Act 3 again, and only the second half is impactful. With that, I say again, Sumeru and Fontaine rank the same for me. Yeah, I really... For the future, I really want to see something with Dainsleif, and I hope it's about the present this time. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. You can see that Acts 1, half of 4 and 5 really mattered, and they were really cool. They were really nice, good pacing, good stuff. Things were really well. and things were hype, but then 2 is garbage, 3 is boring, and the first half of 4 is also just not going anywhere, right? So that's why I feel like, again, with Sumero being more balanced, in my opinion, they rank very similarly, and I believe that people are just like, oh my god, the last act of Fontaine makes this quest the best one. I'm like, brother, that's not the entirety of the Archon quest. Go back and see again if you think it's the best one again. Anyway, we're done with the Archon quest. Like, that's about it. When we get more stuff, when we get to the absolute end of Fontaine, we're gonna look back more. We're gonna once again look back and see maybe if anything changes with any new additions to it. As I said, interlude quest, second act of any story quest. Again, maybe Nouvellette is going to be it. Maybe it's gonna be Furinas. I kind of doubt it's gonna be Furinas, actually. But yeah, we're gonna see it again. Let's look at the new area, though. Done with the Archon quest. First, let's tackle the quests, since, we move from quest to quest. I wasn't that big of a fan of the what's it called, the Narcissian Cruise quest. It was kind of boring for the most part, and then the boss fight was so unbelievably boring. Like, I know it's meant to be more cinematic, but just waiting just to do a charge attack, and again waiting and waiting and waiting. I'm like, come the fuck on, just let me fight the boss as it is. Like, I think the conclusion to all of the quests that that we gathered up just didn't do it. I was more interested with the follow-up quest after that, with Caterpillar in the weird Abyss book, whatever the fuck that book is, with the Melusines. That quest I would love to explore more rather than the Ordo. It's much more mysterious, and then Caterpillar is involved, and it's like, wait a second, why is he here? So, like, yeah, I'm more interested in that rather than just the Ordo and their story. So, yeah. As for the definitely a Melusine quest, it was quick and straight to the point. The mystery doesn't work at all, and yeah, well, gameplay-wise, it was fine. It was nice to explore the underwater part of the new area with its mysterious stuffs. Why even pretend, try to pretend that the Melusine is not a Vishap? Like, they even named her Passive, which is Vishap backwards. Like, at least try a bit. Like, she speaks to another Vishap and stuff. Like, at least, again, try to sell the mystery a bit. Because then afterwards, it just makes the Traveler and Paimon look even more dumb than they are. Like, it's not fun. And yeah, and those are the major world quests of the new area. Unfortunately, speaking of other stuff in the area that are tied to the quests, the tower wasn't as cool as the floating cubes. And, especially when they're tied with their respective quests, as I mentioned. Also, they named the tower Gestalt, and I was ready to see the plot fall down the near-replicant path and see some weird shit. I think Caterpillar did mention something about separating body and soul, and I'm like, and you named this Tower of Gestalt? Interesting. But yeah, other quests, like side quests, were actually kind of cute. Honestly, the weird one where you speak to a cat and a dog, I'm like, man, goodness, seems that the drugs from Sumer are still hanging on. And there was another one with like a Melusine, I think, and another guy that you need to do after you do the world quest. That one was actually kind of nice. I liked the interactions with I like the character interactions there. But yeah, that's about it on the quest. It was okay, but I wasn't crazy about the world quests compared to previous ones, honestly. On the exploration side, though, of the new area, it was okay. Somehow, I think it felt a bit smaller than the 4.1 area, I think, but it wasn't that bad. I think although it's actually bigger, I think maybe things were spaced out a bit more, and they were left a bit empty, so that's why I think it felt a bit smaller on things to do, I guess. I was happy to actually see a more land-filled area in Fontaine. I very liked its points of interest, like the weird, like, the thing with the lake. That is the weird thing that pushes you away. Although Scaramouche can break that. the willow was so awesome, but the main thing was the underwater stuff, like how things were all connected. I like that. I enjoyed that. But yeah, for the area with the more underwater in it, it was nothing crazy going on. And since the tower was the most interesting part there, and it kind of disappointed me, it was kind of a letdown, so it didn't really help. Same with the harbor, it didn't have anything interesting there either, so it's like, okay. I liked again, as I mentioned, I like the underwater cave system in the northern area, but the underwater around the tower was just meh. It's just like it felt like a step down from the 4.1 area. The Fortress of Meropide is much cooler, even with the spotlights and stuff. But I was expecting something like the secret underground area in 4.1 with the huge mechanism that you use to process the mysterious ore. Like that was really cool and just, we're fucking around without anybody telling us, right? We're messing with things we might have not, we should not. But it rewarded curiosity and it was very mysterious. Like it had a really good atmosphere to it. This whole underground base of like using the ore and working on it, and it was missing from the new area, which I would have liked to seen. There were some underwater underground areas where you gathered the fragments for the world quest, but it was just the same 4 places, just repeating the same procedure 4 times with direct the water or the whatever power to the mechanisms. And speaking of those mechanisms, the fact that they put the octopus power above water shows that they were running out of ideas for puzzles. Because why try to think of an interesting puzzle when you can just copy the underwater mechanics and magically place them above water? And also, holy shit, the tutorials this version were so bad. Paragraphs on paragraphs for the simplest shit with over-explaining. And just, my goodness, why are they so adamant about filling tutorials with filler text? And also, why would you give such long, stupid names to stuff? Like, it just makes the tutorials just not easy to understand, right? Like, needing to say, like, the underwater power of the, like, abhorrent creature octopus. And, like, fucking just say the octopus. Just don't. Right? The tutorials sucked so badly. I legit ignored them. And I had no trouble whatsoever doing the puzzles. Because they were just so simple. Right? With simple explanations, you can easily do it. Like, just experimenting, you will more easily be able to understand what's happening compared to tutorials. I felt like if I read the tutorials, I would have a harder time doing the puzzles. And that's the new area. Like, it's not the strongest for sure, no new enemies as well. Finally, though, we have true neutral local legends, where I believe they don't have any high resistance to any element. Although I did approach them thinking they were an NPC, and I would just talk to them, only for the boss health and music to appear. So yeah, we went a step forward for allowing any team to challenge them, because before the local legends were, the Hydro Eidolons, the local legends, so you can't be damaged by Hydro, can ruin some reaction-based teams because they're constantly affected by it. Second area, we got the Fatui enemy and then the small robot, but they have high resistances of their own. Also, you need to play around the shield mechanic for the other one, right? But here, like, it's nice. They're completely neutral and it works as far as I know. Maybe because they're humans, they have lower physical resistance, but that's not really a big problem, right? But we definitely went 2 steps back in being able to know their enemies. Because again, I just approached them thinking, oh, this guy's like looking towards the Willem, like, maybe he's gonna be an NPC. And then he like aggro's on me, and I'm like, oh no. Like, and the other guy just has a guitar. So I'm like, well then, why the fuck is an old man? And why the fuck is an uncle just a local legend? What happened? So yeah, I think that's it about the local legends. I'm happy again with the neutrality in being able to go against them, but for the love of God, make them look less like an NPC. And let's finish off with the event. People, I can't believe I'm able to say this, but they did the impossible. They made a good event. Congratulations. Yeah. What can I say? The story was always straight to the point, and like it didn't take an hour. Like it took less than an hour to complete each part sometimes. The characters involved, well, Fremine for the most part, like they acted very well within the story. I was maybe expecting a Lini/Lynette appearance at the end, since we are working with Fremine. Like maybe they just pop up and like, oh, you helped Fremine, that's cool. That sort of dialogue, just a cute appearance. But yeah, like here, even if the story was about an NPC again, because things move in a very good pace, the story was enjoyable. right? And also, the story didn't completely derail towards an NPC at the end, like the last main event of 4.1. Also, at the end, like, spoilers a bit, right? I don't know who was the crazy one, right? Since the lady was seeing her son's spirit, but then the traveler could also see it. Like, what the fuck is Remine hiding from us in that helmet? Why am I able to see spirits with it? The fuck? So yeah, it's like, who's the crazy one? The lady? or us? Anyway, as for the gameplay side, it was harmless, I'll say. The circuit minigame was okay, very easy, and also just don't try to beat around the bush when explaining stuff like circuitry to people. Like, don't say broken circuit, just say it's a switch or it's affected by a switch. Because things like this are around people constantly, right, because of technology. They are able to understand when you explain things without trying to change stuff to cater the explanation to them. Like, they're able to understand them better. Like, just say it's a switch, no broken circuit stuff. Just also, I was actually just expecting some more mechanics, perhaps, because the only thing they had was just switches. I was expecting that they would get some other mechanic as the minigame went on, as the stages went on, but no, just switches. Oh, you now have to guide two of them, and it wasn't that, like, way too easy. Like, way too easy. Just something more. Like, other times they include mechanics for just one stage in other sorts of minigames like these ones, but now no. So yeah, the minigame was harmless and it was fine. The collecting one was also just harmless, like collecting the parts, just a bit boring. And then the combat minigame, there must always be one in a main event. At least here, compared to the last event, it wasn't just a wait for the one-shot mechanic to pop up. To just pop. Just kill stuff with a buff if you want. So it was harmless, just rack up a high score. Although they don't rank you this time. Like, usually they'll give you, like sometimes in combat events, they'll give you like a medal or something. And usually I do chase the platinum or rainbow medal. So none of that here, which was interesting. But yeah, like the gameplay side of stuff was harmless. And yeah, they made a good event. Insane, I know. Like, the story was fine. The gameplay side still needs a lot of work, but it didn't hinder the experience like other ones where they just completely boring or they just sucked so much. So yeah. Oh my god, the main event was good. I cannot believe it. Hey, you get a Fremine, and Fremine is actually a pretty nice character to use. Do try him out. Although, I can't say the same for the minor events. So before the main event, we had the Misty Dungeon and a photograph event. Both of these will go down in the list of the worst events in the life cycle of the game. The Misty Dungeon was neither misty nor a dungeon. I cannot believe they dared call this Misty Dungeon. I'm sorry, I could easily make a whole video on this stupid shit. Like, what do they think? The reason people liked the first Misty Dungeon was because it was misty, and more importantly, it was a fucking dungeon. Finding your way through the rooms was all the fun of it, and it also felt a bit roguelike, because you could go to extra rooms instead of just the runes. rooms. You could go to extra rooms instead of just straight for the 3 runes in order to get some buffs. Right, and guiding yourself with the runes that shot up a beam high in the sky was neat. It has gone so downhill since the Sumeru one. There, you just use the Dendro zipline to go from fight to fight. There was no dungeon feeling. And now they went a step beyond that, and it's just a room with 3 teleports. Go through the 3 teleports, fight, go back, fight, end. And the fights were laughably easy, especially if you brought your own characters. Like, yes, using trial characters isn't the best feeling, right? Because you're like, why did I pull for my own characters, right? But the thing is that if you don't scale the enemies to match your characters, you literally two-shotted things. Like, the whole stage of the event lasted less than a minute. Right, because you just teleport to a fight. 3 seconds fight, teleport out. 3 seconds fight, teleport out. Like, yeah, and that's the thing. That's why the first Misty Dungeon was a bit more well received, because even if you had trial characters and their builds were kind of garbage most of the time, The enemies were scaled correctly so that the fights didn't last a second. Right? And it's like, yeah, what the fuck do you think? And speaking of those trial builds, oh goodness, the new ones are so hot fucking garbage. I hear people say on these trial characters, they are a representation of what most people will use. Well, you know what? Like, if the devs don't go out of their way to teach people to properly build characters, well, yes, people will have garbage builds. I mean, of course, the whole point is to spend on the weapon banner, since, you know, that's the best for the character, fuck you. But yeah, if trial characters don't have good builds, then how are people going to learn the correct way of building a character? Fucking Nouvellette had the new Battle Pass weapon, but that weapon is bad on Nouvellette because he's on the field for much longer than the restriction of the weapon, right? It gives you HP when it gives you max HP when you're on field for a limited amount of time. But Nouvellette stays on the field for more than like 5 seconds. And then recently had Solar Pearl, which he can't use because his burst isn't a burst to always use in a rotation, and his skill doesn't deal damage, so he can't use the effect of Solar Pearl. My goodness, literally Prototype Amber is better than the weapon on Nouvellette. But of course, buy the Battle Pass, right? Where are you gonna find the weapon on the trial character? On the Battle Pass, give money. Just wow, man. Same with Risley, of course. Oh, he has Solar Pearl. Where can I get Solar Pearl? Oh, the Battle Pass, money. It's like, fuck you. So much fuck you. And that's why, again, that's why players don't know how to build characters. Because nobody goes out of the way to teach them, except for communities, right? Communities that are already deep enough on knowing how to build characters. So that's what happens. Welcome to game design and like explaining things to your players. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. Even as a super casual, you want to know how to make the best out of your character, don't you? Anyway, horrendous event. Why? And the thing is, you have Misty Dungeon. This Misty Dungeon sucks ass, so people are going to say it sucked ass in the surveys, and they're gonna be like, well, no more Misty Dungeon because people don't like it. Instead of, oh, I don't know, maybe go back to the roots, you know, the good Misty Dungeon, when people said that the Misty Dungeon was good. It pisses me off because Misty Dungeon is like Labyrinth Warriors, and people really looked forward to Misty Dungeons, but now, no, because they fucking suck. Oh my goodness, just, what can I say? Our combat events are not coming back because people don't like them. I wonder why. It pisses me off, like genuinely it pisses me off so much to have such a good idea with the original Misty Dungeon and then run it down to the ground. As for the photography event now, oh boy, I don't know if you're in social media, but many people did not like this event, and for good reason. The descriptions of what to photograph were many times misleading. Wild creature didn't mean enemies somehow, even though you have many enemies that are, you know, creature-like, and they're wild, I don't know. Right, why not say wild animal? Oh, I don't know, because the only thing that you could actually, like, photograph usually was animals. Holy shit. And then the fact, of course, that they gave you random rewards. Like, you needed, like, a whole set of these colors, and they gave you they gave you one randomly for the photographs. Like, meaning you could easily not get all the rewards if you didn't log in every single day and took all 10 photos, was absurd. Absurd. Like the camera in the last quest where it just bonks up and down because she's hitting her head on the floor, but I'm like, calm the fuck on. The entirety of the event sucked. And like a funny story is that I was on social media, right? I saw people being like, if I don't log in every day, I'm not gonna get all of the rewards. And I'm like, oh, come the fuck on, there's no way, right? Like, okay, like the rewards are random, I understand that, but there's no way. Like, events last for a plenty long time. Even if you don't log in every single day, you should be able to get most, if not all of the rewards. And then I log in on Monday, like the event started the event started on a weekend. And then I log in on Monday on an email that says an event is ending. And I'm checking, and it's this event. And I'm like, it just started. What the fuck do you mean you're ending the event? And then I understood. Of course you're not going to get every single reward if the event is like 5 days. and you get random rewards, right? You get the random colors, and you need a whole set of them. Bullshit. Horrendous. 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 Wow. Just wow. Is this it? Like, usually the minor events are harmless or okay. Like, kudos, highlights are many times, like, the original Misty Dungeon, Labyrinth Warriors, the Lisa Skin event, the one where you create your own dungeons, right? Even the Adventurer Trials, where you use character abilities to do minigames. Usually these minor events are good, and then the main event sucks for me. Now it's the opposite. The main event was good, and now all of the minor ones need to suck dick. And it's like, why? Why can we not strike balance? And here's one note, and I genuinely want some, not feedback, but I want your experiences as well in the comments for this note. So I'm pretty sure this version was affected by the death of a Chinese political person, right? And they weren't able, I believe, to just work all together for a whole week. That's why the live stream was delayed for 4.2. I'm pretty sure that week costed them a lot, because this version has been the glitchiest, buggiest thus far for me. I cannot tell you the amount of times where characters just teleported around like crazy in cutscenes. Their animations completely broke. I've seen some other bugs. I mean, those are most like regular, like in social media, like I saw fucking Furina getting impaled by a tree and just spinning on the air. But like I saw many bugs and other things. With my highlight being in the Archon quest during the Furina's trial, in one of the cutscenes, her face disappeared. I'm not joking. I wish I recorded that. Her face completely disappeared. She was just eyes. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So yeah, like I'm pretty sure that week was quality assurance, like testing stuff. It costed them a lot. And I would like to say, to ask you, right in the comments, did you experience a lot of bugs, glitches and stuff? Because like it genuinely, a lot of things felt unfinished. In the details, like stuff, like again, NPC animations in cutscenes where they would just do random shit, teleporting around because they just weren't placed correctly or something. And again, Furina's face melting in front of me, and I'm like, oh no, oh poor Furina. And that's it. In conclusion for the video, the Archon quest ended very nicely, but the previous acts dragged it down a lot. The new area was fine. We finally got a good main event, but the minor events had to suffer for it. They sucked hard. And that's it. And, hopefully we don't get another death of a Chinese person so that we don't get more bugs. Thank you for watching the video. Like it if you liked it. Sub to the channel to help it out. And follow me on Twitch for Genshin streams and other stuff. Next video should be Furina's review, coming very soon. It's a lot of pages. See ya. I hope to see you in another video.